All right, today I am here with Farid Yaghini, chairman of Camp Aftermath. And Farid has served 10 years in the Canadian military, has gone on 2 deployments to Afghanistan, and has worked alongside some of the top performing Tier 1 Special Forces operators in the world. Farid since has retired from the military and moved into a civilian role with the government, and then started the Camp Aftermath Foundation, which is in support of veterans and first responders with PTSD from their service. And Farid is probably one of the smartest people I know in terms of the self-optimization world at this point.
All right.
And I wanted to bring him on to talk about some of his habits and routines that he's really learned and worked on in terms of his own self-optimization to share it with you. So welcome, Farid.
Thank you for having me. Kind words from a rock star himself. So yeah, glad to be here and let's have this.
So I was honestly really excited to get you on, and you were one of the first people I thought of because I don't know anybody who has taken learning about self-optimization and then applying self-optimization quite as seriously as you have.
Yeah.
And then at the same time, I feel like with everything that you try and put yourself through day to day, you need it more than anybody else I know at the same time.
Yeah, it's kind of having that scientist mentality towards it. And I think, the military had a lot to do with it. Very influential. I joined at a young age. So kind of pushing you, how long can you go without sleep and food and stuff like that. And, you've gone through some of those trainings as well. So you kind of don't know your limit until you push there. So, I kind of got into the world just because for my own well-being after I transitioned out of the military. Kind of had this sense of, what am I supposed to be doing now type thing. Lost and lack of purpose, really, a lack of purpose, which I didn't know was a lack of purpose. You know there's something wrong, but you don't know what it is. And that is like the worst feeling. So then after I kind of started looking into it, with the help of, the mental health experts and all this other stuff, you kind of you try this and try this and try this, and you try different things, and you're like, this is crap. But hey, wait a minute, this is good. And then just kind of a rabbit hole, everything from cold shower to doing shots of apple cider vinegar, and it's not all good. My body does not react well to all of them, right? So that's the one thing you have to be okay with. I really cut out meat for a while. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do completely zero meat, and I felt like, not that good, right?
Yep.
And so I found the happy medium, and it's just that quest, right? And then also obviously who you surround yourself with, being with you, coming on Road 01 with us, with all the guys, just learning new things, like even that stretch move you do when you go between the toes, right? Yep. I've been doing it ever since.
That's awesome.
It's kind of like going to the gym, right? Everyone's like, how'd you make that gym routine? And it's like, well, you watch other people and some guys doing something, and as long as it's safe, you try it, you're like, wow, that was cool, and then you incorporate it into your kind of system.
Okay, so and then how did you start? Because you went from sort of lacking purpose in the military and trying to find that. What was, I guess, that turning point or that first thing that clicked in that you wanted to try that then started you off on the rest of that rabbit hole?
I guess how it all began was when I left the military, and I kind of, when I was in the military, I became part of this, unofficial study. A lot of my friends from the unit I was supporting, were suffering from various mental anguish, PTSD is the hot word, I guess. So I became part of the study of why are you, you seem to be half decent, right?
Yep.
So at first, you would lie about stuff like this because you don't want to bag red, you want to, deploy again. But this had, they made this about my friends. They're like, we want to, find out what's up. These were the early days, right? So this was 2007 type stuff. Excuse me. And then so basically, they asked, what do you do? What is it? And stuff like that. And so with me, in these studies, what they did was they made you look inwards. What I mean?
Yeah.
And when there's a group of shrinks asking these type of questions, whereas before you would not ask these questions, no one of your friends would ask you that at the age of 25, so it's they really asked me to look within, right? And then you're like, oh crap, that's why I like deploying, because that gave me that platform to give, right? And so it really, I started asking questions after, and those questions led to books and to different peoples who then led to other books and other people. So every book I read says, like cites a book where I'm like, oh, cool. And then every person I meet like you is like, actually, this is my morning routine, right? And then I try that. So, I mean, you obviously got to make sure it's safe, but I think that was really the turning point, was rock bottom.
Okay.
Right? So that when you have to look inwards.
And so, because I'm sure somebody listening to this might try it for the first time, when you were 25, you were in the military and you were first asked to sort of look within yourself. How did that feel trying to do that for the first time?
Weird, right? Like, I mean, I lived in the shacks. I owned like, a futon from Canex, right? And then I would sign waivers and I would try to deploy as much as possible, right? Never knowing why, right? I just loved it. I loved going there. I loved the unit I was supporting. You know what I mean? These guys are really cool. They made me, it was they were the most elite soldiers out there. So it felt good being around them, being able to support, this mission. Not that there's anything wrong with conventional, but, there's just, as a younger guy, you just see a bunch of these like Hulks walking around with beards and you're like, oh man, you know what I mean? So it gave that sense of purpose. You felt like you were making a difference. And, like that's a whole other side story, but they really made me like, push you to the edge and see and what the beauty of humanity and also the ugliness of it, right? And so when people start asking these questions, you're like, hey man, like everything's good, like you know what I mean? Stop making me go there, right? Like, and then some of it was ugly, but someone was like, oh cool, like that's why, you know what I mean? I didn't know why I loved to deploy. I thought it was to serve my country and like to give back, and then which is like, the generic kind of answer. But then looking in, asking the questions that they did in different ways, it's like, oh shit, like, I like to deploy because it gave me the platform to help other people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Without that platform being the military, and of course deploying being the kind of the icing on the cake, where I got to look in the eyes of people and say like, man, like, like I did this thing. You know what I mean? And most times, the most meaningful ones, in my opinion, in my experience, have always been the ones with no violence. You know what I mean? Those innocent things like a girl's school that you kind of got to go by and you just dropped off some supplies. You know what I mean? The look in their faces, those things, like how else would I get that opportunity?
Of course.
Yeah.
And so from you saying that, it sounds like transitioning into Camp Aftermath would have been, as much as it was work to get off the ground, a very natural progression for you.
Yeah.
Because,
no, it was not. It was very unnatural. I was scared
Okay.
shitless. Yeah. Like it took like, I'd say from the being the most lost I was, like it took probably like 2 years. I had the idea because I wanted to recreate the experiences I got of looking into someone's eyes and making a meaningful change in there. You know what I mean? Like really like seeing it. You can, it's a beautiful thing to do charitable things. You donate some money to Africa or some natural disaster. That's a kind thing, and people should do that, of course. But it's when you get to actually like look in the eyes of someone, right? And we got that experience in Costa Rica when we went on Road 01, right? We worked with the local people to build a home for somebody. The people that were going to live in it were there.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So, of course, like anything, I'm sure including you, when you started your business in this podcast, you self-doubt, right? Someone's doing it better. Who the hell am I? You know what I mean? And I was just blessed to have friends and people who supported me and said, man, like, you should really try this, right? No one's really doing it exactly this way. So it's really, I owe it all to them because myself, no, it wasn't very natural. And it was frightening as all hell. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, and I think it's a great point about trying to surround yourself with the right people, because I really think there is something to the old adage of you are the people you spend the most time around,
100%.
the 5 people you spend the most time around, whatever that is.
Yeah.
And I myself have found that the more I hang around the right type of people, the more excited about my life and doing things I need to do I get.
For sure, you feed off, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And but talking about that, and because I was there, I got to see a lot of the things that happened with Camp Aftermath. But for you, how did it feel watching those participants we brought down? How did it feel watching them look people in the eye, the grandmother whose home we'd built in the eye? And what changes did you see? Like, did you see the same changes you saw in yourself?
I mean, seeing them was inspiring to me. You know what I mean? Like the way the way they worked. You know what I mean? Like these guys are trying to take siestas, and these guys are working. You know, you saw there was no skin on the bottom of their hands with shovels. But I mean, yeah, like to say you look in the eyes of someone, you know, some connected with the children, some connected with like, you know, the medical people that were there. We had first responders who connected with the police force there. Just the opportunity to look someone in the eye and be like, listen, I did this thing, and there was no motivation like other than just sincerely being nice. You know what I mean? There was not for oil. There was no political reasons. You know what I mean? Didn't need to be any violence, right? Yeah. And I think it was the same. I think it was better than what I got while I'm deployed because, you know, as you heard them say, I got to come into a country, I got to do something, and I got to leave better. Right? And in the military, you can't always say that. And as a first responder, you can't always say that, right? Whether it's a police going to a domestic dispute call, you know what I mean? Or in the military, you know, you deploy to Afghanistan, you come back and you're like, yeah, they're a lot better right now than since when Canada deployed there. Like, that's, you know, various opinions. But so this is a rare opportunity for them to make an actual difference and get to leave it in a better state. You know what I mean?
Well, and I think that was a very profound moment of talking about purpose. That idea, especially for a lot of guys who've been in the military and people in civilian life might not connect with it as much, but the idea that you can go and do something and have a positive impact without having a negative impact to cause that positive impact was, and being more from that civilian background, that was never something that occurred to me. That you could have purpose but feel almost connected to destruction in your purpose in the way where you almost have to in the military or in some of those first responder roles.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's kind of the job, right? Like you don't deploy to the to a peaceful country.
No, exactly.
Right? So there has to be this idea of there has to be something horrifically wrong so I can have purpose, right? And then that's attached to a uniform or an occupation, right? So that's where the kind of the identity thing gets. There's crossover now. Like you are a son. You know what I mean? You're a boyfriend, you are a brother, and you're a chiropractor. You know, that's your occupation. That's how you said, and you know, that's my hands is how I give, right? Whereas like in my opinion, and Dr. Whalen's, you know, who's our mental health expert on site, is like the crossover happens is when you believe that you're not you anymore, you're just a soldier. You know what I mean? Yeah. You are your rank, you are your medals, you know what I mean? And there's this like kind of thing. And then when that gets taken away from you because of mental or physical or because you just simply have to retire, well then, see, that's destructive because now you don't have that platform anymore. And you forget that you can be good without the uniform, without the missions, without the operations. You can do the Big Brother program. You can do go to Costa Rica and give. You can do tons of things, but it's so easy to be the hero when there's something wrong, though, right? Like for me to be significant in your life, I would have to get to know you. I would have to get to know what you like, what you don't. Do you know what I mean? What do you need in your life? That's a lot of work, right? Whereas in a war zone, there's just someone needs to be trying to kill you, and I kill them first, and I'm instantly a hero. Zero work, just add water, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like, and it's like I'm kind of, you know, obviously I'm dumbing it down, but it's easier to get that purpose, that adrenaline of like, yes, I did something, right? And but unfortunately that comes at a cost, right? Because a lot of this stuff is unnatural. It's not, you know, it's not natural to see the kind of destructive and behaviors and the death and the carnage that comes along with going to a war zone type thing, right? And that's the struggle. It's never the actual thing you saw. For most cases, it's who were you before that happened, right? And Dr. Rohn talks about that a lot, right? Because everyone thinks it's that one thing, but it's like, who were you before this incident? Who were you before Afghanistan or the military? And getting into those, as you witnessed in our group, like, you know, there's that you kind of start to see the root versus just dealing with the symptoms type thing. Yeah, that was huge for me in our group, whereas I saw that happening.
There were a lot of really profound moments in that group. And it was shocking to me how sort of disconnected from a purpose, if you will, some of the guys had become, and some of the habits that had come along with being disconnected. And that was another thing that we really worked with Camp Aftermath, was not just connecting with a purpose as much as that was really important, but also trying to develop positive daily habits and routines that, again, could kind of connect you with yourself a little more and not just with that sole purpose once more.
Yeah. So like the volunteerism it's aimed more at kind of getting you out of isolation and getting you connected again with people. So if you're working, you know, for the food bank, you're going to be hanging around a bunch of people who are working at the food bank, and you're going to connect with them. You're on the same mission, right? So a lot of guys and girls will go into isolation, which, you know, I mean, there's a bunch of science that shows that we're biologically made to be connected to other people. You know what I mean? So that doesn't help when you go into isolation. So this is almost like an excuse of coming out, you know, and going to the food bank or the Big Brother program or whatever, right? And even us going and building a home together, you're on the same journey. You're here to give, right? So that connects you. So that's kind of, you start asking questions, right, about yourself, right? So maybe it's volunteerism, or maybe you meet someone that they're into art, and then you do art. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
And so that's but the positive habits kind was actually more like from your realm is the physical stuff, right? Because, you know, you get a lot of guys, you know, I spoke to before they come or whatever not, and it's like, okay, man, my morning routine's like I wake up late, suck back a lot of sugar and antidepressant pills, you know what I mean? And I eat a bunch of sugar, and then I feel like crap. You know, my PTSD. I'm like, man, you know, if Tony Robbins took that cocktail, he'd be depressed, right? Like that's kind of physical, you know what I mean? Like, so, you know, so let's try some new things, right? And of course, we don't try to give people like a list of these, you do these things, you're happy. You know, you wake up early, you know, we took cold showers, we did yoga, we did meditation, right? But like, you don't have to do all those things. Just pick one, just be the scientist. Do a couple, right? So some of the guys say, man, like the stretching thing really loosens me up in the morning. Others found the apple cider vinegar, it eases the stomach, you know, because from the side effects of the pharmaceuticals, it eats away their stomach. So this kind of helps, you know what I mean? And you know all the benefits of that. So the positive habits is just more self-optimization. It has nothing to do with, like any Joe Blow could benefit from waking up early and stretching.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, it has nothing to do with your PTSD, right? So, and that's the whole thing. And Dr. Whalen talks about this. It's about getting away from that specialness. That that this trauma or this thing is just to you in the military or in the police force or in the firefighter. Like this is, everyone's got their shit. You know what I mean? And you can deal with it in, you know, the same way as a civilian can, right? That went through the same kind of different kinds of trauma, right? Of course, the occupation or whatever is different, but like at the end of the day, we're all the same. They're as just as special and have the similar kind of problems as we do, right? So that was really cool to bring the physical and kind of the spiritual part, like, you know, together, and that's what the positive habits are. So doing them over and over and over to become basically they don't think about it. So you don't wake up in the morning and be like, oh, I gotta take a cold shower. Like, you know what I mean? You do that enough and it just happens. It's like your coffee in the morning, right? You just
Absolutely.
do it. So that's why we did it every single morning to get that kind of across.
Well, and it was really interesting. I found when we were there, one thing, and you had pointed it out towards the end, was every day we'd done another minute or two of a silent meditation, a transcendental type meditation. Yes. And the first couple days, people struggled with it. And it was short. It was maybe 5 minutes, I think, the first day.
Yes.
And it was interesting watching people struggle with that. And then by the time we got to Costa Rica day 3 or day 4, it was getting a little easier. People sort of settled into it. The change in location kind of shifted people back a little bit. But it was getting longer and longer. And by the end, we were doing, I think, a 20 minutes, 20-minute meditation. And by the end of that 20-minute meditation, instead of having rolled and stirred and kind of done 10 different things and got up for a pee, the guys were almost ready to do more.
Yeah. And that's, you know, and that comes from the training, right? So kind of training them that their mind actually wants to be silent from time to time. Right? Just getting them, and it was the same way. Like, so I went through the training myself. So, and it was just like you sit in your seat, like, because we're not used to silence, especially in this society in the Western world. Like that was awkward, right? Like, but like in the Eastern cultures, I guess, like, you know, silence is actually a good thing, and, you know, means you're being thoughtful and yada yada. So in transcendental meditation, we can't just go full blown, cross your legs, and start levitating, right? So a little bit of foreplay is required.
I will be levitating by the
Yeah,
time
yeah,
we
yeah.
go
Oh, yeah.
back for roto 2. But
I've been doing it all the time. But so it's kind of easing into it. And if you notice with everything with regards to the physical and the stretching and the work, we kind of like ease into this because like it can't just be like going to 20-minute meditation right away. It's like you saying you want to run a half marathon, you go run out 13K the first day and you're like, man, this sucks, I'm not doing it, right? So it's kind of like easing everyone into this. And that's why it's repetition is king, right? Repetition is king. And to the point where, you don't want to come out of it, right? When you skip a gym day, it's not that, oh man, my biceps going to shrink. It's like that psychologically, I feel like something's missing. So I crave it. I don't feel it physically that I missed a day of gym. It's psychological, right? So I'm sure you can relate to that, right? With your early morning workouts.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, there are days where, frankly, I do sleep and I need that sleep.
Yeah.
But you do. You look and it's almost like, yeah, you've missed something. And it's slowly become the same with getting a little bit of meditation in here and there. It feels as though I'm missing something and I'm craving something if I haven't done it.
Yeah, for sure. I feel the same. And adds up to me. This summer, I spent a lot of time away and vacationing, which is beautiful. But obviously, you're out of your daily routine. You somewhat miss that. And I noticed it. And I noticed it mostly in my short-term memory. Like, you become forgetful. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's kind of you become a bit foggy compared to... and so I'm like, wow, but that was cool too, though.
Yeah.
So I'm grateful for that feeling. Right? I'm grateful for that feeling. It's like skipping legs day a couple of times and you go to the gym, you're like, oh, right? Like, so like, it's the same thing with meditation. Like I find when I don't do it, I get foggy, but that's good because then I know what it is not to do it. Right? So kind of being grateful for that as well. Right? Like, something I recently read, like people make really meaningful changes in their life for two reasons, either inspiration or desperation. Right? I mean, I'm usually at a desperation, right? Like I make meaningful change because something hurts so bad. I'm like, I gotta do something, right? Now, once in a while, you come around the guy and you're like, oh, man, or a girl, you're like, damn, like, like I want to do that, right? But like for most people, pain is the best teacher of lessons, right? So it really, and I'm not immune to that, right?
Yeah. I don't think any of us really are either. I think that psychologically, there's got to be something really to that where we will hold out until we're in pain. There's that comfort in what we know, and without being out of our comfort zone and what we know, we won't necessarily try and change it.
Yeah, and I think you try to get to a place where like you look forward to the pain because like that's when real meaningful change is gonna happen, right? Of course, it still sucks when you're in pain, right? Like when a relationship ends or when your health declines, that still sucks. I'm not saying, oh yes, I'm in pain, but then also after kind of going through the whole self-pitying, grieving, coming out of it and saying, okay, like what does this mean? What, you know what I mean? And it's just, and that's what really did it for me when you go back to the beginning of this interview is like asking questions instead of just being in self-wallow and shitty feelings, like having the ability, that 1 second ability to step back and be like, okay, why? Right? Why? Or going to talk to somebody, talking to a mental health expert or friends, loved ones, like, and asking them, like, well, they're like, well, you've been an asshole for about a week now, you know what I mean? And like, basically, you haven't gone worked out in a week. They're like, like I'm dumbing it down, but like people around you see you, your loved ones see you, and they can tell when there's something off, right?
And interestingly, sometimes more than you yourself can tell there's something really off.
Of course,
so,
yes, yeah.
Yeah, there's a very strong argument to be made to make sure that you do have some sort of a social support network and people to check in with. And
that's what connection is all about, right? Like just looking out for each other and stuff like that. And you saw that on the rotation, right? Guys would go take turns going kind of, struggling with something. And then this guy would like help him out, but the next day it'd be another thing with him, right? As we went through different phases from animals to the environment to humans, we were helping different types of therapies, music therapy, touch people differently. Some, group therapy at the beginning compared to the end, the exercises that we did with Dr. Whalen. You saw different guys stepping up at different times. And that's what connection is. They saw each other, right? And that's just so freaking inspiring. You know what I mean? Like, it was much as much for me that it was just for them, You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely.
And that's funny because Dr. Whalen, and in this program, as you know, there's no hiding and there's no onlookers. So Dr. Whalen, myself, you as staff, we were all sharing just as much as them, and we made promises and implemented change in our lives just as much as them. There's no client-patient relationship.
No, yeah, it was very different from my normal relationships with patients because I was as much the patient at that point as anybody else was.
Yeah.
Which was a very interesting
It is,
experience.
right? To be vulnerable that way and not to have a title, but it also releases you.
It really,
Yeah.
some of the least stressful time period of my year that I can recall at this point was there. It was, as much as it was a working trip, it was non-stress. It was wonderful. I got to be open. I got to learn about myself, and I love having opportunities where you can do that.
For sure. Let me just pause it.
Yeah. All right. So one other thing I wanted to ask you before I let you go is about your morning routine, because of everybody I know, I think you've locked down a morning routine the best.
Yeah, well, and just like I alluded to earlier, from the gym routine, it's from hanging around people like you, right? So, or reading something different, whether it be from Marcus Aubrey's book, Own the Day, to the 4 pillars, so it's like, it kind of made it my own, right? So it might not work everything for everyone, but so basically I set my alarm. I wake up at 6 a.m. I got an alarm clock, which is not like the type thing. It's the sun one, so it kind of lights up gradually.
Sunrise alarm clock, I think, was life-changing for me.
Yeah, so it's amazing. So like at 5:45, it starts so it kind of feels like, especially in a country where it gets dark pretty fast, it's really nice to have.
It has
wake up
saved me during the winters.
Yeah, but I mean it's fall right now. You can see it's getting dark quite early. So it's waking up with that. But once I'm awake, it's called the 5-second rule, and there's a whole book about it. But like I really like about it is like, so in my head, it's almost like a countdown. Like, so it's like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and I just get up. I just go. And the idea behind that is that if you sit there, you'll talk yourself out of getting up, right?
Yep.
And so it's somewhat about discipline, and it's also about like just get up, right? So if someone wants to go for a run, for example, if they sit there, and there's some science behind this, that you literally have like 5 to 7 seconds if you want to do something to move physically towards it. So if I say I want to go for a run, and if I just sit here, I'm like, it's kind of getting dark out, and it's cool, you know what I mean? But if I just go and just start putting on my shoelaces, you know what I mean? And some of your best runs or workouts are the ones you didn't want to go.
Yep.
Right? And most people can attest to that, right? So kind of getting up, give myself a countdown, right away I'm up, and I kind of jump into a cold shower. Now that started off slowly, doing the sanitary stuff in warm and then going to cold, and now I'm pretty much comfortable at the coldest it gets, right? Of course, the first, right? But then after that, it's kind of more like I don't do the Hoffman breathing, I believe it's called, but I think that does help, right? But it's a very quick shower, because I usually shower at the gym anyways at lunchtime when I go. So it's not so much for, getting there and getting, washing my ears. It's more getting under the water, doing a little bit of sanitary stuff and just like getting out of there. I get out of there, I brush my teeth, and that stuff. I come out, I do approximately 5 to 7 minutes of stretching. And that just feels good. You know what I mean? Yeah. And then basically doing like 5 or 6 burpees, and that's more for just movement, blood circulation, right? So the cold shower and the movement and the stretching kind of just like, you're like, poof, you know what I mean? Like, I'm good, you know what I mean? And then I sit there and I meditate. In the morning, I meditate twice. So the morning one, because I still got to go to work. I still I have to wake up and get my daughter ready when she's with me to go to school and whatnot. So I meditate anywhere from 5 to 7 minutes in the morning. I'll meditate like 10 to 15 at nighttime, type thing before bed. So I do that meditation, and then I drink a glass of apple cider vinegar, water, and some sea salt and lemon juice. And we can talk about all the benefits that comes from that. The sea salt, of course, for the electrolytes, the lemon, and the apple cider vinegar, the benefits of the lining your stomach and absorbing nutrients, which you educated us on Roto 1. And then 3 times a week, I take a shot of turmeric, lemon juice, and black pepper. That's from you. So that tastes horrible, but it's like just a shot. And basically, that's for inflammation. And turmeric's like, I mean, there'll be a whole other podcast about turmeric. Google it. So it's pretty good stuff, right? And then basically, yeah, I usually 3 to 4 times a week I do intermittent fasting. I don't eat until 12, and then I eat and I stop eating at 8 p.m. So try to eat in 8-hour windows, I believe it's called intermittent fasting. For those, there's a lot of benefits to that. I personally find the energy levels in the morning, like because I'm not bogged down in digestion. I'm just like, you know what I mean? I'm just like, wow, alert, right? Of course, all the movement. I do have a cup of coffee. So in the mornings, I have a cup of black coffee. And I also have green tea. That's great for appetite suppression. Now, if I'm struggling and I'm starving like at 10:30, I'll eat. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Not a hard and fast
yeah,
thing,
exactly, right? But I try to do it 3 to 5 times a week. And I find it really good. My energy level at the gym is the same. You know what I mean? It's not dropped off because of calories or whatnot. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So if you're in a different, obviously, training regimen, obviously look into that. If you're like a heavy weightlifter, you might need those calories.
Well, of course. And I mean, this isn't necessarily meant to tell people that they
no,
have to do anything.
Exactly, right?
Just to give some
Something
ideas
works for me. But I find when I'm disciplined to that, it's a habit now. So it's not like, oh, it's the weekend, so I don't do it. I have to do it. You know what I mean? And yeah, if there's like people over my house, I'll speed it up, right?
Yeah.
I'll speed it up, right? The cold shower always happens, right? I crave it. And now all my showers are cold, right?
Well,
especially
when you
after the
said
gym.
you got to a point where you can crave pain almost, that was the first thing I thought of, was you jumping into essentially ice cold showers.
Yeah.
And looking forward to it or craving that ice
Yeah,
cold.
I crave the feeling right after. It's like when you lift weights. You don't crave, like, you know what I mean? It's the agony. It's like you got to love the process, right? Like everyone wants six-pack abs. But if you don't love going to the gym, then you're not going to do it because you're going to give up because it's just like, it's not fun. You got to love the process, right? And that's what I always truly believe in. Whatever I want to do, I got to love the process. You want to be a millionaire? Well, then are you okay with working 14, 15, 16 hours, right? Yeah. Are you okay with that? You want to be a business owner and set your own hours? Well, welcome to Brian's world, right? Like, you know what I mean? So it's like everyone wants to do something. You know, there's a saying, everyone wants to be in the army until it's time to be in the army, right? Like it's not, everyone thinks it's all Afghanistan and painted guns and beers. Meanwhile, it's like, winter warfare, pooping in a bag, and like, you know what I mean? Not being able to sleep and seeing your apartment lights, in Petawawa, right? So it's you gotta love the process and staying disciplined to it. And there's a lot of stuff on it. I really believe in this. Like, discipline is freedom, right? Discipline is freedom. If you dedicate, if this becomes your art, if self-optimization, one of becoming a better person, better habits it becomes your art. It becomes then you drive it. You're not doing it for anybody else, right? You just want to be a better person. And then people around you are becoming a better person. Oh shit, Brian's got a podcast now. He stepped up his game. What am I going to do? That's motivating me. You know what I mean? But I want to be around people like that, right? Because this morning routine, you come do this podcast with me in 6 months to a year, there's going to be something different about it.
Yeah.
Right?
And I'm sure we're going to come back to this.
Yeah, right? And I'm going to try something different. Right? I'm going to try something different. And sometimes it backfires. I'm not going to lie to you, right? Sometimes you feel like ass because you didn't eat meat for a while. And
you've got to experiment that way.
Right? And but that's the whole, love the process.
Yeah.
Right? So that's kind of really the driving factor behind it all.
I love it.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm going to wrap up here. If you had to, and a couple rapid fire questions at the end, but if you had to choose one thing that you do for yourself out of everything, what do you find is the most important? I'm putting you on the spot here, but
I guess the one thing I left out of my morning routine is my gratitude circle, and again, that's my one thing.
That's your one thing.
Yeah. So I kind of in the mornings, as I drive to work, and my daughter's in the car, I do it out loud with her. It's kind of like I go through everything I'm grateful for, starting with me. So whether I start off with like my health, you know what I mean, and my apartment, my car, like all this shit that you can't take that for granted, right? Like all these things that I'm grateful for, And then I move to the most special thing in my life, and that's my daughter. Thankful for her health, her presence, her motivating me, you know. And then I work out to loved ones, family, this amazing country. So I keep rolling that out. And that's the thing I do for myself. In my, you know, if I don't want to do it out loud, if other people are in the car, I can do it, me and you and a group of people just sitting here. And it just keeps on reminding me like how grateful I should be. Do you know what I mean? And what does that? What that does is kind of shed that sense of entitlement. So when some guy like cuts me off, or some guy's an asshole at work, it still pisses me off. I'm not like Buddha here, you know what I mean? It still pisses me off, but then like it kind of helps me remember, because I repeat it every day. Like, man, really, like, fuck, okay, whatever. You know what I mean? It happened. It made me feel uneasy, but then I'm better going back down to where I want to be, right? And that's what it gives me the ability to do, right? It doesn't make me like not angry at all times and big smile on my face. It just gives me the ability not to be pissed off or upset for a long period of time. Some people like wear that all day. They bring that home, you know what I mean? Getting cut off at a road, or some guy gives them the finger, right? Whereas I find now it's just like, oh man, what an asshole, you know? I mean, I might even sell some back to him, but then, oh man, I got so much to be grateful for.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, like, and maybe because, you know, and that's what bad situations, people all want to talk, you know, and blame what's bad in their life with someone who wronged them. But it's those assholes that actually should make you grateful for the state you're in right now, right? So yeah, I think that'd be my one thing, is reminding myself how grateful I should be to be in this country and in your presence and all of this stuff here.
Well, I love it. And I'm very grateful, in fact, that you were willing to sit down with me and be on this podcast.
Yeah.
Last thing is, I want to give you a little bit of time just to talk about Camp Aftermath for a moment.
Yeah.
Just in case there's somebody on this platform listening to this podcast who isn't familiar with it. I think it's an awesome cause. I obviously work with Camp Aftermath and really believe in what it's doing and the process behind it. And so I'm going to just give you a minute if you want to say where to look you up and where to connect. And
yeah, for sure. Thank you for that. So it's www.campaftermath.org. So check us out. So it's basically a program, 3 phases, 1 year long, with mental health expert Dr. Whalen being at the head of it, Dr. Karen Shu and Dr. Lise Preston. Lise Preston's a social worker, a rock star. But basically there's 3 phases, being screening, second phase being deployment of some sort to Costa Rica, helping the environment, animals, and humans, obviously. And of course, that is the very minor part, because really the long-term goal is to, while they're there, we help them enroll in charities back here in Canada, which is phase 3, the most important phase, which is 1 year long. That's following up, practicing, holding each other accountable, meeting each other and during video teleconferencing if we live far away from each other, or physically if we can, and basically implementing the changes that we said we would. So it doesn't become just something you did in Costa Rica or something you did in that 1 week with me. It's beyond me or Camp Aftermath. This is stuff that's already inside you. I'm just trying to bring attention to it. And so, with the help of our doctors on site, doing group therapy, various types of therapy and therapeutical activities, kind of really trying to gain that sense of purpose, whether it be volunteerism, but really the inception of this whole program is connecting to people, right? It's getting them out of isolation. It's getting them to talk about it. And as soon as the first guy becomes vulnerable, you saw it. It was like dominoes. Yep. Right? And then you become connected. You don't have to shield up, right? Like, oh, I was a cook. You don't know. Like, it doesn't matter. You know what I mean? And moreover, the positive habits, right? So these 3 phases combined, 1 year being overlooked by mental health experts the whole time, video teleconferencing. It's kind of a unique thing where you're dedicated. You have to show dedication. There's a thorough screening process to make sure you're right fit for this. And also your family's involved. And you have skin in the game. It's not a free program. So there is a fee you have to pay, which you can get sent back from this program if you come there and you don't give it your all, right? So unfortunately, we're made in a way that as soon as we pay a fee, we take it more seriously. Yep. And so naturally, we have a minimal fee for a 1 year program with mental health experts, and we want only people that are serious. We don't want people that are just trying to get a ride out of this or a vacation. And this is not a vacation. It's physically, emotionally demanding, It will tear you down, and you will build yourself up. No one's going to build you up. You build yourself up, right? Based on what's offered to you, and you pick and choose what you want to do. You choose, and then we're just to support you in whatever that choice may be. Yeah, www.campaftermath.org. And you can, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Look us up. Love to hear from anyone.
Make sure you check Camp Aftermath out. They are an awesome charity. And once again, thank you so much, Farid, for being on.
Thank you for having me. All right, sir.